Give Mr. Byrd another minute. Okay, well, we might as well get started. Mr. Byrd, I'm sure will join us.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'd like to call to order the Whatcom County Council meeting for November 10th, 2020. It is 6:01 p.m. and we are meeting virtually. Would you please call the roll?
Rod Brown.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Tyler Byrd. Todd Donovan.
Here.
Ben Ellenboss.
Present.
Carol Frazee.
Here.
Kathy Kirschner.
Here.
Could you please display our flag so we can salute? Please join.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for the reminder, Kathy, to do the proper thing. And by the way, my fellow Navy veteran, happy Veterans Day tomorrow.
Same to you, my shipmate.
Shipmate. Yeah. Okay, we are at the executive report.
Thank you, Chair. I do not have any report today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 4 sets of minutes to approve today. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any corrections to these minutes? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Tyler Byrd is away. Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss.
Yes.
Carol Frazee.
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Byrd out of the room. We have some public hearings tonight. Our first one is AB 2020-445, which is an ordinance adopting amendments to Whatcom County Code 20.72, the Point Roberts Special District. What's the council's, do we have anyone that's going to give us a staff report on this tonight? Okay, we will open the public hearing then. Okay, we've opened the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak?
Yes, Councilmember Buchanan, we have 2 speakers. The first is Allison Calder. And just again, as a reminder, this is on AB 2020-445 for an ordinance for Point Roberts. Allison, go ahead.
Allison Calder, Point Roberts. I am talking to you today for the PRCAC. Stephen Falk is unavailable this evening. Just asking for council to please pass the amendments that we have come up with so far. We do acknowledge that we have more work to do and that we should have started from the beginning in working with our sub-area plan and then making our way down, which we will be planning to do this coming year, and look forward to working with the county to proceed appropriately. But again, we wish that the council to approve the amendments as we have made so far. Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Wolf. Go ahead, Steve.
Hello, Steve Wolf here from Point Roberts, PRCAC, and it's great seeing you all. I wanted to say something that follows Allison's remarks, which was that this was really, I would say, Point Roberts' first attempt at making changes to zoning law, and we picked those areas that were extremely interesting and possibly difficult, because actually we'd never really worked on these issues before. We and a sub-area plan next.
This
and then,
meeting is
and
being
then,
recorded.
Obviously, code comes third. But we did work through a tremendous amount of little d democratic issues. And I think we came up with something that was at least agreed to over 27 meetings. And there'll always be some complaints, I'm sure, but there'll always be the awareness that a lot of Point Roberts was brought into this. And I'll close with the idea that this was perhaps one of the first times that Point Roberts attempted to do kind of a governmental function like this. PRCAC has been around for a while. There's other groups that have done things. The people that worked on the sub-area plan have done things, but this is the first time we actually tried to grapple with zoning changes. And I can say that I'm personally quite pleased with at least the huge effort that we put into it, and the conversations and the consultation with Cliff Strong and others about the legalities and so forth, all the while knowing that we really wanted to do vision first and come up with some big ideas before we worked on these, but these were things that were really necessary. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope that you will approve our amendments to the code. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Louise. If you could please state your full name for the record. Go ahead, Louise. We can't hear you, Louise. Go ahead, please. Louise, go ahead. There are no other hands raised at this time, and it appears that the microphone for the attendee named Louise is not working.
Okay, thank you. We will then close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the council?
I move to approve. This is approved by the planning staff, planning commission, and the community out there. So move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and let the record show that Tyler Bird has joined us. Councilmember Bird. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes. That passes unanimously. Our next item is AB 2020-310. It's an ordinance granting Gordon Montgomery and John Millibar a non-exclusive franchise for the provision of sewer services. This hearing was open at our October 27th meeting, and we've held it over until tonight. So Do we have any other folks that want to testify on this open public hearing?
If you would like to speak during the public hearing, please raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon or dialing *9 by phone. We do have one hand raised. Danon Traxler, if you could please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I'm Danon Traxler, and I'm representing John Millibar and Gordon Montgomery. And I just wanted to say that we agree with the county's proposed revisions to the franchise agreement, and we don't have any other comment at this time, but I'm available for questions as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Danon. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak?
Council members, Deputy Prosecutor Chris Quinn, present. I requested the set over on this. I believe you've had a chance to review the redlined amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. In short, however, I'll summarize. The only significant
Hey, Chris, we probably need to close the hearing before you do this because we're engaged with the public at this moment.
I apologize, sir.
And I think we're almost there, so just hang loose 1 second. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, I will close the public hearing and go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
My apologies again, council members.
No problem.
Chris Quinn, Whatcom County Prosecutor's Office. Again, present for any questions the council may have. The only changes that were agreed upon in this proposed franchise agreement consists of a sunset clause, which basically provides that if the property if the property which is being sought to be developed is not developed within a certain period of time, any rights under this franchise agreement would basically go away, would be vacated. So rather than guarantee 25 years with the possibility that the property never gets developed, again, we included that sunset clause. So again, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Quinn? Mr. Ellenboss.
So this thing goes in perpetuity, or does it ever expire and come back for reconsideration?
Yeah, Councilmember Ellenboss, that's a very good question, and I apologize if I didn't explain it clear enough. The franchise agreement was that we originally considered granting this for a period of 25 years, which isn't uncommon. If you read the recitals, the whereases, it kind of explains why they're seeking it. They were looking to develop some property which required connection to the Blaine's sewer line. It's uncertain, however, whether they will pursue or complete the proposed subdivision. Therefore, we indicated that if it's not completed within a period of time, and in this case, it would be 3 years, they would lose any rights under this proposed franchise agreement, under this proposed agreement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I found it was a second whereas.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, what's the will of the council?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Donovan moves, Frazee seconds. Discussion. Okay, please call the roll.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes,
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
that passes 7-0. We now move into our open public session. The open session is being held virtually via Zoom, and members of the public wishing to speak can request to speak by raising the little hand on the down in the bottom of your screen, or you can dial *9 as well. And unless you want to run that video one more time, Kathy, that's probably a good idea. I see some other people have jumped on. Okay, we will open the public session, and can we please have our first speaker?
The first speaker is Lance Calloway, followed by Doug Gustafson, and then Louise Cassidy. Go ahead, Lance.
Good evening.
For the record.
I'm Lance Calloway, Northern District Manager for the Associated General Contractors of Washington, and I live here in Bellingham. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. Since you're introducing the Cherry Point moratorium tonight, I wanted to address the council. As I've previously passed along my thoughts to you, I feel our Planning Commission has done a great job in facilitating this process, resulting in a compromise, while not perfect, one that resulted in reasonable changes to your proposed amendments that I feel that all stakeholders could live with. If we must continue through this process, I'm glad to see our stakeholders are willing to push through and bring this process to completion. Whatever your final version becomes, it's critical that you seriously consider its economic impact. We're very fortunate to have an industrial zone like Cherry Point in our county. And with that said, AGC, our member contractors, and many others in our community want to ensure Whatcom County continues to be an attractive location for future industrial development investment, to further secure living wage jobs and providing millions of tax dollars for revenue for our schools, parks, and their services. I ask that you're very careful not to squander Whatcom County's economic future. Thank you again for providing me this opportunity to speak to you tonight, and I hope you have a good rest of your meeting.
The next speaker is Doug Gustafson, followed by Louise Cassidy and Eddie Urey. Go ahead, Doug.
Hey, you guys hear me, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
Hey, this is Doug, chairman of Homes Now, Not Later. Homes Now is currently managing Unity Village, the first tiny home community in Bellingham, located in Fairhaven. Unity Village has been in operation for over a year. We don't take any taxpayer dollars with Homes Now. We have a model of self-sufficiency and self-empowerment, and we don't require any taxpayer dollars. But we are trying to house more people in a cost-effective way, really bang for buck, basically. And so I wanted to read to the public the email that I sent to council members and Executive Stdham today. Whatcom County Council members, I wanted to let you know that I support your efforts to shelter more individuals. I'm glad to hear about the motel rooms that will be available on Byron Street and that it's been extended until the end of the year. I'd also want to speak out in support of the pallet shelters for being a modular option for future uses, including emergency relief in the case of a natural disaster or emergency shelter, or simply to increase capacity where needed as unanticipated situations randomly pop up. The structures are portable, modular, and can help the county to become way more flexible when new challenges arise out of nowhere and budgets become more uncertain in the long term. As a side note, I also wanted to mention that Homes Now is willing to work with the county in the future in order to house more people. We would like to set up another tiny home village using Unity Village as a template, with the building of the tiny homes being a community project. And we won't require any government money. We will require county land, though, if that's possible. We would appreciate any future site, though, being set up with basic infrastructure such as water and electricity. We don't know which sites are viable from the county's perspective. So if it's a possibility at all, please let us know and we can get the ball rolling. I urge you guys to be innovative and experimental where it's not a high risk. The community in general wants action where they see that their taxpayer dollars were minimal and that they got a lot out of it. Solving problems is the fastest way to make them happy. You don't even have to do it on your own. Many others would hop in to help if they understood the process more or thought there was a way to make it happen that they could apply to, or other things along those lines. Just my 2 cents. Thank you. That's all. Please consider it.
Our next speaker is Louise Cassidy, followed by Eddie Yuri. Go ahead, Louise. Go ahead, Louise. I think the microphone isn't working. I'll go on to Eddie Yuri. Go ahead, Eddie Yuri.
Good evening, council members. My name is Eddie Yuri. I'm the Climate and Energy Policy Manager at Resources, based here in Bellingham. A couple things I'd like to speak to tonight. First off, I do want to speak in encouragement and support of the council adopting an ordinance to implement a program for commercial property assessed clean energy and resilience, or CPACER, to implement a new framework created by the state legislature that will benefit commercial property owners to reduce their utility costs with a incentivized and financing program that should assist them in reducing their energy use and benefiting our climate as well. Knowing that buildings in general, including commercial buildings, are one of the largest contributors to our carbon footprint here locally in Washington and worldwide. And this is an innovative step forward, or innovative program that will move us forward. And Whatcom County is actually posed to be the first, or one of the first counties in Washington to actually get ahead and start administratively implementing this. I was a little confused because I saw public notice that there would be a public hearing on this ordinance after it was introduced 2 weeks ago. So when there is a hearing, we'll come back to say more about that. But I do hope that you won't delay in passing it, even though some of the key administrative procedures may need to get worked out. But sounds like I'm encouraged to hear council member support and support from the executive and assessor in implementing this. So the second item I wanted to speak to was, of course, Cherry Point amendments. To give you a brief update on that, I and other stakeholders are happy and grateful to be able to participate directly with council members in a special meeting work session devoted to finalizing revisions to the draft Cherry Point amendments next Tuesday. And we do hope to send you a proposal jointly proposed by representatives from industries and labor and environmental groups. We're a little, as always, taking a little longer than we'd hoped to come to full agreement, have made a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks, but are hoping to arrive at agreement this Friday afternoon in an upcoming meeting, and confirm that on Monday to send to you. So again, just apologies in advance that it'll be coming without a great deal of advance time to review, but hope to be able to send it by Monday night so you can review prior to our work session Tuesday afternoon. And also hope that you will move forward with introducing, hopefully for the very, very last time, the interim ordinance on applications that would increase the transshipment of unrefined fossil fuels through Cherry Point, and to vote on that 2 weeks from today, and then hopefully wrap up this process overall by the end of the year. So thank you much for your time and consideration and your service.
Our next speaker is HK Mobile. If you could state your name for the record, please.
Hi.
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Council. Hi, neighbors. Heather Katahdin speaking. Thank you, Council and staff, for your long hours of work. I really wish I could see your faces tonight on the screen when we're speaking. I'm a tax-paying resident since 1989, retired both as a volunteer first responder and firefighter. Our community sees gaps in our community budget towards carrying physical actions for our most vulnerable citizens. Council, 2 weeks ago, I shared of my witness of being outside on a cold night when I found a female youth aged 17 and also finding an older female disabled senior who both had no nighttime shelter and who, though they requested assistance in finding warmth inside for the night at our public shelter base camp, they both individually were told by night staff no, they could not come inside to warm up. That was October 25th. I also did outreach this past Sunday and met a gentleman who was living outside and was cold and respectful. I shared hand warmers for him to keep his fingers warm through the night. I asked if I could put the pre-warmed hand warmers into his gloves for him. He thanked me and he said, "Ma'am, I'm not fragile. I'm just in pain and hurting." I'm thankful for the other outreach citizens who are keeping watch over him and seeking to find him safe shelter, possibly safe shelter such as the pallet huts that I've heard Councilman Tyler Bird and Councilperson Todd Donovan discuss today. I support purchases of these huts that can be stored until a location and staffing plan is created. We still do not have access to a nighttime public winter warming center, and I encourage council members to give clear directions to county or city staff to create alternative safe shelter options this week that can be accessed in the evenings. Today, I checked both our local hot shelter number and the city's webpage titled Winter Actions. Both information sources made no mention of our youth citizens who are alone and without safe family. I also searched for the Whatcom County Winter Shelter page. That page had misinformation last week, now has been removed, but not yet replaced with current shelter information the last time I checked. Each night, I ask myself, and I ask each of us listening, where can our youth stay tonight? Where can our homeless citizens stay any night when they are refused entry to our main public shelter? Council, please consider what actions you can take together before Thanksgiving break to ensure that we have a safe citizens nighttime warming center in our community this November that is welcoming to all ages and to all identities and those with disabilities and who are medically fragile. May we each see the needs before us. May we greet each other with kindness and share our attention and our warmth with both strangers and our family. Thank you so much for your listening, attention, and your work.
Thanks, Heather.
Our next speaker is Trevor Smith, followed by Miguel Perez, and then Kim Sauder. Go ahead, Trevor.
Good evening, Council. My name is Trevor Smith. I'm the Political Director for Labor's Local 292 and a resident of Bellingham. I want to speak to you tonight about the AB 2020-520, which is the renewal of the moratorium that you guys will be considering tonight. I just want to make a couple comments on where we're at with the stakeholders group. First, as from the beginning, I wish you guys had gone with the Planning Commission recommendations. With some minor tweaks, I think we could have been there with what you guys were looking for. But since we haven't, second, on a more positive note, the way the stakeholder group has come together is a positive development for our community, especially if you consider the contentious nature of what we've been going through with the moratoriums and getting all the stakeholders together. They've done some really good work. It's been an honor and a pleasure to watch this whole thing and participate in it. While I believe that the stakeholders had already done the work at the Planning Commission level, I am encouraged that the group continues to work with the council and try and get better crafted language to bring back to you guys. I do have some concerns, however. It seems like some of the things that we had finally found agreement on and put to rest are being brought back up, and we're starting to dig through some of the things that we had already had come to an agreement upon. And we thought we had those resolved. We all need to continue to work together to preserve Whatcom's future and to preserve the living wage jobs out at Cherry Point. I just wanted to thank the council. We look forward to the meeting next week and continuing to work through this and get this whole thing resolved. So thank you very much. Please have a good evening.
The next speaker is Miguel Perez. Go ahead, Miguel.
Hello, Council. I'm going to piggyback on Trevor Smith's comments, which I concur with. My name is Miguel Perez. I'm a lead representative for the Carpenters Union. Again, I want to express my disappointment that the Council has not accepted the Planning Commission's recommendations to Cherry Point amendments. However, now that we're past the election, we all need to focus on working together to solve the challenges we all face. To that end, I'm glad to see the stakeholders group still working together to help the council come to some sort of resolution. We live in uncertain times. Please be very careful as you finalize your Cherry Point amendments. As you know, Cherry Point is the foundation of Whatcom's economy. The council needs to focus on how to attract industry and good paying jobs to Cherry Point, not drive them away. I thank you for your consideration.
The next speaker is Kim Sauder. Go ahead, Kim.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, council members, for taking the time to listen to my concerns. My name is Kim Sauder. I'm the executive director of the Whatcom County chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. Our mission here at NAMI Whatcom is to provide hope and improve the quality of life for those who are affected by mental illness through support, education, and advocacy. I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office budget proposal to freeze funding for one of two mental health deputies starting in 2021. A member of our board of directors has spoken with Sheriff Elfo about this and learned that prior to COVID, the office was planning to request 2 additional mental health deputies. So obviously the sheriff sees the value in these positions, as does NAMI Whatcom. Why is the loss of funding for this position so important? In a mental health crisis, people are more likely to encounter police than get medical help. In the last 3 months, about 60% of the calls to the sheriff's office involved someone experiencing a mental health incident or crisis. A significant percentage of those incarcerated in the Whatcom County Jail have a mental health condition. NAMI believes that persons who have committed offenses due to states of mind or behavior caused by a serious mental illness do not belong in penal or correctional institutions. Such persons require treatment, not punishment. A prison or jail is never an optimal therapeutic setting. The loss of one mental health deputy is a significant reduction in the ability of the sheriff's office to respond most effectively to calls with individuals experiencing a mental health incident or crisis. Given the geographic size of Whatcom County, responding to calls involving mental health in 2 different locations concurrently would not be possible with only one mental health deputy. Also, the effectiveness of both the GRACE and LEAD programs will be significantly compromised without having 2 or more mental health deputies giving these programs referrals, doing follow-up, coordinating with families about treatment, among all the other tasks frequently done by the mental health deputies. It's interesting to note that the Bellingham Police Department, faced with similar revenue shortfalls, is proposing to create 3 additional behavioral health officers, transferring them from regular patrol officers. These positions do not have concurrent regular patrol responsibilities, which is something we suggest the Whatcom County Sheriff consider doing as well. Finally, with more limited mental health officer responses, more people experiencing a mental health incident or crisis will likely be jailed, which is much more expensive than diverting the individual to treatment. Therefore, I urge the council to reconsider the current budget proposal to reduce the number of mental health officers from 2 to 1 starting in 2021. Thank you for your work and your time this evening.
If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand virtually by clicking on the hand icon or dial *9 on your phone to raise your hand virtually. We do have a couple more speakers. The next speaker will be Marcus D. Go ahead and state your full name for the record, please.
Yeah, this is Marcus D. Stdham. I am the homeless advocate on the Homeless Strategies Work Group for Whatcom County. I thank you all for your faith in my position there and having me there to represent you there as in an advisory role, and I'm here to advise tonight. Firstly, and most importantly, I think that it's very important that we need to recognize that we've been past capacity at the base camp for some time. At or around capacity doesn't really matter when we know and acknowledge, and everyone can, that there are several hundred people here who can't or won't go into the base camp. And so things have been ugly out here in recent days. This last week was really rough. Sideways winds, 40 miles an hour. Rain sideways yesterday too. Exacerbated by some hapless behaviors, maybe by the COB. I mean, there was literally a street sweeper that went down and cleaned up the entirety of the campouts that were all along Cornwall. Those people are distributed all over the city of Bellingham now. I know this because I do outreach. I'm doing outreach now. I'm sitting on the corner of where am I? Well, I'm C Street and Holly, and so you can come out here and join me too if you like. Here's the deal, guys. We need shelter now. We're overflowed. We're supposed to have that shelter. I don't know what happened, what's going on with that, but we need to like stop the breakdown. This is Sat Paul's job right now. I remember 3 years ago, Sat Paul was very loud about it, insisted we have shelter that night, and Jack Louse sat the first shift on the men's sheltering that we did. Emergency sheltering is needed, and it's compassionate. And if you don't, I'm afraid people are going to die. It's certainly a pandemic atmosphere. We're already in an emergency, and we have volunteers like myself and others, elders out there giving aid. They're risking their lives doing this, and you owe us all better than that. So, in that regard, I also want you to please get the pallet shelters. Don't let the money burn up from CARES dollars. Spend it on wisely on this investment. If you buy 50 pallet shelters, you could save hundreds of lives over a few years' time. I mean, they're reusable. As Doug said earlier, they're versatile. You can use them for all kinds of different sheltering needs when you need them, and you can pack them away when you don't. But don't underestimate the people who are out in your community right now, saving people in the streets. These are the people that would gladly come to your camp that you develop and bring cookies and smiles and flowers and sunshine and community. We can turn the corner together, but we need forward thinking. We need leadership. Please do that. Also, Heather spoke about warming centers. That's very important. Can we please consider the farmers market area and open up that building at night for people to come in there and just get warm? You can have a cop patrol it if you want or whatever, but we need answers. We need to bring our citizens home. Thanks for your time.
Our next speaker is a caller, number starting in 360, ending in 824. And then we'll have Christopher Otropka and Mary Stdham. Go ahead, caller by phone, and please state your name for the record.
Hello, Louise Cassidy, Point Roberts, speaking on garbage service in Point Roberts. I'm sorry a couple of people are tired of this issue, but I'm the one living with the consequences of your vote for this ordinance. This is the community's money that you are spending. You talked today about due process for community participation, but the chair of the PRCAC stated in October of 2017 that 80 to 90% of people have no idea what is happening. When I complained at the April meeting that I had no idea what was happening until a March 2018 newspaper article, I was told, oh, well, you missed it. The next two PRCAC meetings were heavily attended. A committee was formed to discuss concerns and possibly other options. The PRCAC chair discredited the group and shut it down. The community was not engaged in the 2016 to 2017 PRCAC meetings. 70 to 75% of households are seasonal and may not get the newspaper or our electronic bulletin board or next door. Some don't think they have a voice. We are talking about households, not permanent residents. When only 27% of billed customers are using the service, something is wrong. When you have to force payment, something is wrong. I do agree with the minimum payment to support infrastructure of service, but the level in this ordinance is too high. The UTC uses actual usage of service by customers to set rates for haulers throughout the state. In October 2019, the WUTC did use existing customer base and added new customers to set rates for can-do. They have a huge algorithm to calculate these rates. The problem the UTC has today is because the estimated usage is just not happening. They have had to deviate from the norm to try and determine a rate. The ordinance does not allow the UTC to set rates the same as they do for every other hauler in the state. I respectfully request that no contract be renewed for payment on property taxes, that you request the UTC to advise you of their estimate of price based on actual 2019 usage and a 12-can minimum for the rest of the households. I would also like to see one council member assigned to set up a working group of Point Roberts households that can work through all the issues and then report back to the full council with the options going forward. Thank you.
The next speaker is Christopher Otropka, followed by Mary Stdham and Sherry Lapoff. Go ahead, Christopher.
Got me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Good evening, council members. My name is Christopher Otropka, and I am a business agent with Ironworkers Local 86. I realize it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to speak with you, but given that the moratorium is being introduced, I felt compelled to comment. After the Planning Commission review that resulted in some solid, well thought out recommendations, I, along with others, were hopeful that you would accept those recommendations with few edits. The council unfortunately did not choose to do so. As the stakeholders now try to work with council to finalize the Cherry Point amendments for a council vote, I ask that all involved stay as close to the Planning Commission recommendations as possible. That's it for me this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and have a good evening.
The next speaker is Mary Stdham. Go ahead, Mary. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. Okay. Hi, this is Mary Stdham. I am calling just to request that everybody take seriously what Tyler Bird has requested and use the CARES dollars to buy the pallet shelters. The need out here on the streets is serious, and it is necessary that there is another option besides base camp for the people that are out here. Marcus D., who is my husband, got a message the other night, one word, it said freezing. We had, at that time, we were cooking dinner, we were about to have an evening at home, but immediately we filled the car. He gave his own jacket, and we took some blankets out of our closet, and we got in the car to help this man out. That should not be the case. We shouldn't be having to save people in the streets. And there will be more people in the streets as the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures goes away. There will be more people in the streets. So it makes sense to get ahead of that and use these CARE dollars now to buy as many pallet shelters as possible. And we can solve the problem of finding a place for them and finding people to manage them after we have the shelters. But losing that money and letting it go just doesn't make any sense. I'd also like to say, regarding the sheriff's department, going down from 2 mental health officers to just 1, I agree that is a horrible idea and absolutely the opposite way things should be going. We need mental health professionals, not officers, to be available and on duty with the police department or with the sheriff's department. And that's where money should be going. So if the police budget or if the sheriff's budget is at all shrinking, that should not be the place that the money is being taken away from. That's all. Thank you very much for listening. Our next speaker is Sherry Lapoff. Go ahead, Sherry.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Sherry Lapoff. I'm a 35-year resident of Bellingham and Whatcom County. I am a retired registered nurse, and I now volunteer doing outreach with Homes Now. I'm very grateful for the woman who spoke from NAMI and was very clear about that. I really appreciate that. The mentally ill also do not deserve to live in the woods in town, in the woods in the county, and literally on the street in the storefronts. And I am speaking in support of pallet sheltering. I did write a letter earlier today, write an email earlier today to council members, and my support for that is listed there. They're heated. The bunks have mattresses that can be easily cleaned. They are individual. They can be for individuals or up to 4 people, depending on, of course, COVID status, but it is not sheltering in a huge room where people are exposing each other and having difficulties with each other. A couple of other issues is that I don't think people realize that the potable water to drink downtown, just a fountain or a sink, is very, very limited. And people that are on the street have to walk blocks for a drink of water. Cold weather is even more dehydrating than hot weather. And they, at one time there was the library, at one time there was Maple Alley Inn, at one time they had relationships with storekeepers downtown where would let them use that, to say nothing of bathrooms. Bathrooms is the same way. Food is very difficult. There's not as much free food as there was. And the Opportunity Council or Maple Alley, Opportunity Council and Maple Alley Inn is no longer serving 2 to 250 meals to 250 people each week. That is not happening anymore. And it's time to look at that to see how that could be safely done. And of course, that probably means takeout with additional expenses. I know that volunteers are of issue with COVID, but that is something that has to be addressed, just like roofs over their head and being safe from COVID. I appreciate your work and speakers tonight, and that is all. Thank you.
If anyone else would like to speak, please click on the hand icon to raise your hand virtually or dial *9 if you're calling by phone. There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. We shall close the open public session, and we will move on to finance and the consent agenda.
Thank you, Barry. The consent agenda passed in committee unanimously, or well, I think that might passed in committee, all items in favor, and I so move for approval.
Okay, we have that motion for all items of the consent agenda. There are, 21 of them? Yep, 21 of them. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ben Ellenboss? Carol Frazee?
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner?
Yes.
Red Brown?
Yes.
Barry Buchanan?
Yes.
Tyler Bird? Yes.
Todd Donovan?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I did not hear Councilmember Ellenboss's vote.
You could guess. Yes.
Oh,
It was like a zombie saying yes, I think.
I know. We'll just have you do this or that all night.
Was it no? It was
Oh,
no?
you said no.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, so I didn't have that right. Okay, that passes 6-1 with Councilmember Ellenboss opposed. Other items from finance. Oh, natural resources. I'm sorry. I got to look at my script here. Take it away, Mr. Donovan.
Natural Resources Committee had an update from the executive and Natural Resources Committee and Public Works about a settlement process that the executive has proposed. And we came up with a motion that was a recommendation to council to bring the framework forward as proposed by executive and move that forward, recognizing that it's not exclusive to adjudication. And that was the recommendation from the committee to the council.
That's in the form of a motion, correct?
That's what I moved, yes.
Do we have a second? Oh, we don't need a second. That came out of committee. Discussion. Okay, please call a roll.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss. I heard that as a no. Is that correct?
Okay, that passes 6-1 with Councilmember Ellenboss opposed. Now we go back to finance.
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is AB 2020-449, ordinance amending the project budget for the Civic Center Improvement Fund, request number 1 in the amount of $4,350,000, pages 8 through 12 in your packet. That passed in committee 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, thank you. We have that motion in front of us. Discussion. Please call a roll.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss, I believe that was a no.
I believe that was a no. I'm getting good at reading lips.
Trying to switch things up here, so bear with me if I'm gone for a bit.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Ellenboss opposed.
The next item is AB 2020-450, ordinance amending the 2020 Whatcom County budget, request number 20, in the amount of $4,476,128, pages 3 through 20 in your packet. That passed in committee 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, discussion on the motion.
Hey, Barry, I'll jump in.
Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
Thanks. I wanted to mention this last time, but since this is the funding portion of this and includes the last one, I'll mention it now. During our committee meeting today, I really appreciated the fact that Public Works and their team, when they looked at this project, they looked at it, and it wasn't Public Works, it was facilities, but when they looked at it, they actually considered what the economy is looking like moving forward and how we get the best bang for our buck. And so they try to break this down into smaller chunks so that we could spend the amount that we need to get done right now and potentially bid the future portions at a smaller dollar amount if the economy gets worse. And so I really appreciated that forethought and that effort and wanted to thank them for doing so.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, please call a roll.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Is this 492?
450.
0. No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Allenboss opposed.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is AB 2020-492. Request authorization for the county executive to enter into a FEMA public assistance grant contract between Whatcom County and the Washington State Military Department for the emergency protective measures, as well as the repair and restoration of damaged public facilities as approved by FEMA and the project worksheets describing eligible scopes of work and associated funding, pages 21 through 22 in your packet, and that passed 3-0 in committee. I so move.
Okay. I have a note here that there was some extra paperwork emailed out by Dana today. I don't have the time, but it was today. So discussion on the motion.
Yep, Tyler again. There was extra paperwork that came in. It didn't change anything here. It just was supplemental to the information and decision making. So what people see in their packet would be accurate as far as the request for authorization goes.
Okay, thanks for clarifying, Tyler. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, let's vote.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Rudd Brown,
Yes.
And that passes unanimously.
All right, the next item on our agenda is AB 2020-503, resolution approving a salary schedule and policies for unrepresented Whatcom County employees effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. It's pages 23 through 42 in your packet. That was approved in committee 3-0, and I so move.
Discussion. Okay, please call the roll.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Rudd Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes, that passes 7-0.
All right, the next item on our agenda is AB 2020-521. Request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract amendment between G6 Hospitality Properties, LLC, and Whatcom County to extend the lease term through February 28th, 2021, with the option to extend an additional 3 months through May 30th, 2021, and an increase of $10,000 in the monthly base rent. Pages 43 through 45 in the packet. There was a supplemental item to this that changed the number of rooms from 15 to the ability to use the entire facility and any rooms that were available for homeless sheltering. That came as a supplemental. That was approved in committee 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, that motion is before us. Discussion. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I do want to give credit to Mr. Bird for both pushing and suggesting this issue, this change, and pushing for it.
Yeah, me too. I definitely, it paid off. Good job, Tyler.
Barry, thank you. And you know what? I appreciate all of you giving me the chance and asking and allowing us to have that extra couple of days. It really was the entire group of us that made this an option and made it happen. So I appreciate your ability to come together and us to be able to do this as a team, because it definitely paid off. Thank you.
Other discussion on the motion? Please call a roll.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
yes,
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yeah, yes.
That passes 6-1 with Ellen Boss opposed.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is AB 2020-526. Resolution requesting the county transition from paper to digital and decrease our environmental impact, streamline processes, support transparency, and cut expenses. It's pages 46 through 47 in your packet, and that was approved in committee 3-0. I so move.
Discussion on the motion.
I'll jump in again.
Sure.
I'm excited about this. I think this is a really unique opportunity with COVID and everyone working from home, and that we get the ability to take advantage of. And I think it will help us move to a lot more digital processes, save a bit of money, but really go to some place that's a lot more environmentally sound. And that's, as you can see, that's Ben's packet. We usually all get one of those at a minimum every single 2 weeks. That's probably the average size, sometimes larger. So we'll be getting rid of that and hopefully a whole lot of other paper usage. And there's a ton of benefits for that. And so this is a great program and I'm hoping we can work together. Todd, how'd your packet get so small?
This is my notepad.
Got it.
Okay, further discussion on the motion? Councilmember Ellenboss.
I'll have to buy another monitor, but I think this is a really good thing.
I hear you on the second monitor. Other discussion, Councilmember Frazee and then Brown. 3 monitors.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Councilmember Byrd for bringing this forward. I said I'm a packet person too, but I really can see the reduction of waste that would occur and saving the county money as we all move more towards screens and digital. So thank you.
And memorization. That's what I try to do. I try to memorize the packet. Whoops, maybe not.
I'm gonna need glasses too. Glasses and another monitor.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, please call a roll.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
yes,
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
The next item on our agenda and last for finance is AB 2020-527, resolution requesting Whatcom County distribute surplus computers and similar devices to the community, pages 48 through 49 in your packet. That was approved in committee 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have that motion. Discussion?
Barry, I'll add some context
Yeah,
to
go
you.
ahead, Tyler.
Okay, thanks. Or unless Councilmember Brown had something you wanted. Okay. I know this isn't a perfect situation, but I'm excited that as a group, we've all kind of figured out a way that we might have some surplus computer equipment here that we usually pay to get rid of. And in this case, we're looking for opportunities and community members that we can partner with to get those computers that are still in great condition to people in need. And so if someone's looking for a computer to take home so that they can do schoolwork or start their own business or anything else, and they don't have a computer right now, this would be a great opportunity for them to get one. And if you're a nonprofit out there and this is something that you feel would fill a niche for you, would love to see an email reaching out to the council and letting us know so that we can reach out and coordinate this program with you. But great opportunity to get this into people's hands that really need it. And this entire council made that happen. So thank you.
Other discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
yes,
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Moving now to Public Works and Health.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Donovan.
There was an item on the consent agenda that I thought was going to be on this agenda. And when I approved the consent agenda, I did not want to consent to that item. And I don't know how that can be rectified. It was item 20 about the phone contracts for the jail. So is there a way to go back and pull that, or have I kind of lost my opportunity for that?
Dana, can you advise us how to unwind this if we can?
I believe as someone who voted for it, I can make a motion to pull it back. So Todd,
Yeah, you can do a motion to reconsider.
I'll do a motion to reconsider. Todd, do you know what that item was again?
Yeah, it's item 20. It was a long list of consent agendas there. The request authorization for the county executive to enter into contract.
So Tyler, what you'd have to do is make a motion to reconsider the overall vote on all the items, because that's the only thing we voted on.
Got it.
And then we'll kind of start over and then remove that one item.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
I make a motion to reconsider the consent agenda. All items were approved, and I would like those to be reconsidered.
Second. We got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that?
So the motion is to reconsider the whole thing, or to
to reconsider it would just be erasing that vote, and then we could proceed with removing that one item and voting on it separately.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the motion to reconsider. Any discussion? Okay, call the roll, please.
Kathy Kirschner,
yes,
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird, yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Motion to reconsider passes unanimously. Yes, Dana, I see you lit up for a second. You have something for us?
no, you're doing fine. I must have just forgotten to unmute.
Okay, thanks.
Then move to approve all items except number 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
So
that's correct.
yeah.
Does that need to come from the finance chair, Dana, at this point, or?
Yeah, if Tyler would make that motion, that would be great.
Okay. So I move to approve the consent agenda, all items 1 through 19 and 21, with the exclusion of item number 20. Those items were passed in committee, and I so move.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's vote.
Red Brown,
Barry Ben's hand was up there.
Who's?
Ben.
Oh, sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
My only discussion was going to be, now you know how I feel, Councilmember Donovan.
Well, if I was paying attention, I would have done this at the start. We have a process for bringing things off the consent item. But yeah, I get it.
Okay, so let's vote.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Donovan,
Yes. Was that me? I said yes.
Oh, okay.
Ben
That-
Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy
That passed.
Kirschner,
Yes,
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Ellenboss opposed. So
Thank
now,
you.
Mr. Bird, you can move the last item.
Item number 20 on the consent agenda, AB 2020-488, request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract between Whatcom County and Securus Technologies LLC to provide inmate communication services for commission percentage rates of 30% months 1 through 36, 47% for months 37 through 48, and 55% for months 49 on. It's pages 572 through 592 in your packet. That passed in committee 3-0.
I thought it was 201.
Right. Thanks, Todd. It passed in committee 201 with myself abstaining. I will move for approval.
Okay, discussion. I saw Ellen Boss's hand first and then Donovan's.
Yeah, I think my question was going to be, I was interested in Councilmember Donovan's thought process here, because I think I maybe have the same thought process. So I want to hear what his reasoning for not wanting to approve it.
Okay, Councilmember Donovan.
Yeah, and so the way it was presented to us, it's going to lower the cost of calls for inmates, which I think is great, and that's, I appreciate the Chief Jones and folks going in that direction. But it's a revenue-making thing for the county, and I know it's $100,000 of the contract, or $100,000 per year that we will be making off of people who are incarcerated, mostly who do not have. They're waiting for trial, so they're not convicted of anything, and this is important revenue, but it's sort of a problem with our criminal justice system that we pay for it by charging people for services while they're incarcerated and awaiting trial and not convicted. And I don't have a replacement idea for the money, but it's not just this. There's other fees, fines, legal obligations that people incur while they're waiting trial. That if we could do that and not put the burden on the people who are stuck there and not use them as a revenue source, that's my issue with this. And it's not just this. There's other things in our criminal justice system. But I applaud the folks who negotiate. The contract will work one way or the other. The vendor will make money. The vendor is going to be paying money back to the county that we will get on top of what it will cost to do the project. So, and then I'm sorry that I didn't pull this off earlier. I meant to do that, but that's my position.
Mr. Ellenboss.
Yeah, okay, that was kind of what I was thinking too, because somebody's already down, and now we're going to kick them while they're down. At the same breath, so if I recall, whenever I've received a call from the jail, I was the one that paid the charges, the person receiving the call. Isn't that correct?
I think that's the collect call system.
Okay, so this is a different system then, where the inmate's paying?
Well, it's either inmates or the inmate's family who the people are making calls from. But my issue is that we are making revenue. It's a substituting the revenue that we would be finding elsewhere to fund incarceration of people who are not convicted of anything. And whether it's their family paying for a collect call, or whether it's the inmate accumulating fees. And this is no criticism against how folks run the jail. I mean, I think they're trying to make a bad situation better, but it's a problem with our system that we're going to be trying to make money to cover our costs off folks who are incarcerated.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I understand Mr. Donovan's concerns. Because I was pretty interested in this topic as well. The thing I will say is I think this is a significant improvement over what it was a couple of years ago, when the rate was 10 times what it is today.
And even then, we were charging about 1/3 of what a lot of jurisdictions used to charge. I mean, some jurisdictions, I think, were upwards of $5 a minute or something once you put in the collect charges and all the rest of it. So, this is a lot better than what it was. It's certainly a lot better than what other jurisdictions do. Plus, one of the things that they do is that they're providing video conferencing options, which would otherwise be an equipment cost we'd have to fund.
Ellen Boss and then Bird. Unmute, Ben.
I'm not going to say I 100% agree with Todd, but I might close. Got all these nonprofits, and then in our jail system, we're trying to profit on a telephone call. But I guess my main concern would be, how do we? Is there a system set up where it could be like a nonprofit? Because I feel like inmates probably want this service, and if we don't approve it, does it go away? That's my question. Because I have a hard time with the county generating revenue with it as well. But in the same breath, I feel like the inmates probably really want it. So fix that. Or can we in this moment?
Councilmember Byrd.
Thank you. I'm not sure I 100% agree with Todd either, but I think it's because I'm further down right now, that path. Besides not making money for this and being able to discount that rate, I really hate the idea of burdening people that are in jail, especially when our data shows us that it's really those individuals who can't afford it anyway, and they're losing that level of income. And now we're layering on additional costs for them. And so that first cost might be the phone calls. The second cost might be them actually being able to purchase some of the things in the jail that they get, whether it's top ramen or any other amenities that they might want. And then that third cost is what it would take to actually get them out as far as bail bonds go. It's tough because there's so many costs layered on there. And when I look at that contract and I hear that, hey, we're going to spend $400,000 upgrading the lines. Hey, telephonic lines, I mean, you don't upgrade those unless they break, right? And so that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me. And this has nothing to do with our staff. I mean, this is a contractor issue that we've gone out to proposal for. And the new contractor's coming in and saying we need to add additional lines. I don't feel like adding video conferencing as an option is a great deal here. To me, you can add video conferencing, or we can get rid of the cost entirely. And I would much rather see us get rid of that cost than add like extra cool features for people. And how we would do that is there's a whole bunch of VoIP systems out there. And so after that last meeting, I went online and I did a search for the features that we wanted with VoIP. And we can get VoIP lines for $50 a month. So voice over internet protocol lines, $50 a month, that would allow us to do the automatic announcement saying these lines are being recorded. It would automatically record every single phone call that took place that we wanted to record. It would have a database of all those so we could go back and watch or listen to any of those conversations at any time. So we get all the services that we have now, but at $50 a month. And what we would have to buy in addition to that is an $80 converter that plugs into the internet on one side and plugs the phone line in on the other. That's $80 at one cost, plus $50 a line. If we're talking about 20 lines right now, and we're not, I mean, it sounded like we're talking closer to 12, but if we're talking about 20 lines right now, $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year is our ongoing expense. I'd much rather burden ourselves with $12,000 a year in annual expense and make sure that those are free to all of the inmates and their families than be layering on those expenses that they have now. So I'd like to kind of get rid of the program, to be honest.
Councilmember Kirschner.
Yeah, I was trying to remember this afternoon, Wendy Jones went over this with us. And what I recall is that this system, that the inmates are not charged for using this system if they have to make calls regarding their cases, but they are charged when they make personal calls. And my understanding was that that was a service that the jail was offering to individuals to make personal calls. And so therefore the charge was being delivered to the inmate or the person the call was going to. And I don't think that anybody from the jail is on our meeting tonight, but it seems to me, because the question I want to ask is, are we required to have systems that allow inmates to make personal calls? And if we're required to, then, you know, I'm all in on looking at why are we charging them. But if we're not required and we're offering this as an additional service to them, then, you know, they can choose to use it or not, I guess.
I would think that the right to a phone call would be any kind of phone call. That just would make sense to me. Personal call would fall into that category as well, you'd think. Councilmember Donovan?
And I might have this wrong, but I asked Mr. Erickson and Chief Jones. It's a service that a vendor is going to be providing. And I think it's a good service. I mean, the contract was that the county then gets commissions of 30% for the first period of it, up to 47% for the next period of it, and then over 50% in the fifth year or something. So where the vendor is covering these costs that Mr. Bird was just talking about, as I understood it. So the county isn't necessarily, and I might misunderstand this, maybe Mr. Schroeder could update on this, but that the vendor's making an investment. The vendor's going to make money off of this. They're going to kick back money to us in terms of this escalating commission. That's going to generate $100,000 of revenue for the county, either over the contract or per year. That part I'm not sure about. So it's not about we could do this a different way. It's like somebody's going to make money off of this contract as a private vendor providing a service to people who couldn't otherwise make calls. And I think Ms. Kirschner's right. Like there's calls they can make that they won't be charged for in terms of calling their lawyers and stuff. But the personal calls for somebody who's incarcerated awaiting trial, they don't have an option. They don't have a cell phone they can use. They're waiting for a trial. We're backlogged on our court system, so that people can be stuck there potentially longer. So that and maybe I'm understanding this wrong, but I thought I got that clarification today that it is a revenue source for the vendor, and they will kick back some revenue to us, and there's not much of an outlay, if anything, to the county. So ethically, do we take that money on top of what the vendor's making?
Mr. Bird, did I see your hand a second ago?
Yeah, thanks. I started off a little foggy today, and it's gotten worse to the point my kids are making fun of me. They're like, "Dad, you don't." So,
did you get your coffee?
Feeling tough today. Hey, Todd. First, thanks for bringing this up. You know, because of that fogginess, it's something I wanted to address, and I missed it earlier. So I appreciate you catching that and bringing it back, because I'm glad we have the chance to have a conversation on it. For this, I'm thinking about it as it relates to those families out there and those kids out there. And it's, you know, if you have a dad, and the numbers in the data show that we predominantly have father, or at least males in there, right? And so it's likely that we have a lot of dads in there too. And it's important, I think, for them to be able to keep contact with their families moving forward, especially during these times where they might be in there indefinitely or for extended periods at the very minimum, while we work through COVID. And I want them to be able to have that contact with their families. And while
going to an entirely different service isn't necessarily ideal. I do think that there is the opportunity to do that and save a ton of money and provide that service to people for free. Now, if that's not something that as a council we want to do, I completely, that's fine. We don't have to go that far, but at the same time, if you look at the contract, the vendor right now is building in a whole bunch of costs to add additional lines and run additional lines so that they can offer these enhanced services like video conferencing. If we didn't do that, we could actually get this contract at a lower cost per minute and save money for those individuals there. I'd rather, if we move forward with this, not increase the type of services and the availability of services, but instead decrease our costs since the infrastructure is already there. I get why it's in there, why it's an incentive for them, because if they can increase the costs and the services, that gross dollar amount per call goes up and they make more money with their percentage, but it's not necessarily in favor of those people that we're trying to help that are in jail right now and their families. And Todd, you're right. The cost doesn't come to us as a county. It goes to the people that they're calling, and more often than not, that is family members. And let me ask you this, how often do you think that they actually call out and you get a phone call that says, hey, this is a collect call from the jail. Do you want to accept it? Do you accept that call? So a lot of times that cost is passing along to the family, and sometimes that person's sitting there on the other end and they're not able to connect at all because someone doesn't want to or cannot afford to accept the call. So if we could find a way to do this better, I think it would behoove everyone in our community.
Mr. Ellenboss.
Tyler brought up exactly my point. I was looking for the exact statistic, but yeah, something like 94% incarcerated parents and fathers. So that's where my mind goes. When we're talking about the cost of this is, maybe we think that an inmate is going to call one of his buddies or something, but I would like to think that he's probably calling his daughter or his son, and that's something that, those kids didn't do anything to deserve not seeing their parent. So when they can't see them, at least they hear them. I don't think we're not helping anybody. But in the same breath, $100,000 might fund another deputy that's unfunded right now. So, that's a balance we got to make. But I really have a hard time with us making a profit on this.
Further discussion on the motion?
Hey, Barry, can I jump in one more time?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go after Councilmember Brown, if that's okay.
Oh, Councilmember Brown?
You always want the last word. This contract is only for 1 year. It does include it does not require the county to put in any infrastructure, and there is no penalty. As I read it, there is no penalty if we decide not to renew it after a year. I would recommend that we adopt this contract, and Mr. Bird believes that there is a cheaper way to do it, and I would certainly encourage him to look at those options and present it to us before the renewal for this contract comes up in the next cycle.
Councilmember Byrd?
Thanks, Chair. I shouldn't have let him go first. You stole my thunder. Councilmember Brown, I was kind of heading in the same direction. With the concept, the contract itself doesn't require us to do anything new as far as adding infrastructure, but it does include costs for the vendor to actually install that infrastructure. And so if we remove that as part of the contract and they were not to come in and upgrade those lines, we should be able to get a better cost for it. So if we could get a better cost for the next year for this service contract, and then during that year, consider additional options, that could be a really good place for us, because we could actually approve this now at a little bit of a cheaper cost to the inmates, and hopefully come back in a year with something that it was an alternative that was free to everybody.
Mr. Ellenboss.
Yeah, I think that was my question. It was what happens if we don't approve this? Does it die and the inmates don't have to service anymore, or will it be something that they'll come back in a month with a better option? Kind of like the fire and street negotiations.
Mr. Donovan.
I guess, again, I'll say, I think it's a good service. And I think there's a private vendor who will provide that and at no cost to the county. And yes, Mr. Brown, if we approve it for 1 year, the county will still be getting a 30% commission to generate revenue off of people who are incarcerated, as I understand the contract. So that's what I'm opposed to. And that, to my, I have no substitute for those revenues. But I see Mr. Schroeder lighting up his camera here, and that's my final thing. Is we oftentimes fund our criminal justice system on the back of people who are sitting in there, and that's my problem. And I don't have a revenue solution to that, except for actually, we don't want to talk about taxes.
Mr. Schroeder, did you have some wisdom for us? Do you know?
Just
go ahead.
Thoughts. So Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. Councilmember Donovan is correct. It's a percentage above the commission. 30% months 1 through 36, 47% months 37 through 48, and then 55% for months 48 and beyond. I'm not entirely sure what the exact issue is that council's interested in. There is a discussion in the agreement on the page 9 of the document that talks about customers' option for alternative compensation structures. The county is the customer in that situation, and it does walk through an ability for the county to discuss whether or not that compensation is appropriate or not, and could remove the ability to receive that commission, which therefore we'd have to find ways to fill that hole. But that may also reduce some of the cost and the rates associated with it. So if that's the issue at hand, I could see the council moving forward with this contract and then discussing further with the sheriff's office about whether or not the commission is appropriate to be used in the future and where that goes. That's about the amount of knowledge I have on this contract, though. So additional questions will have to be directed elsewhere. But I'll try my best if there's other comments that come up.
Mr. Brown.
We have the choice, of course, to do whatever. When I say we, the county, the community has a choice to decide what to do with the revenue that we make off this. We could decide, for example, to use it to subsidize phone calls. We could decide to use it to provide free calling cards for the most economically impacted. So family members who couldn't even afford anything would still be able to contact people or inmates. So we have that option, but we don't have that option unless we're actually collecting the revenue. So the two things can be bifurcated.
Councilmember Donovan.
This will be my last. We can decide that we collect revenue to fund our criminal justice system from the general fund or from whatever revenue sources, or we can decide to collect those revenues from people who are sitting there in jail. And that's the part. I'm sure this vendor would totally like us to, say we don't want that commission. They'd be okay with that. But it's not a point of what we spend the money on, it's how we're getting the money that I just think is ethically problematic.
Any further discussion?
Can I jump in?
Sure.
Thanks. I agree with Todd. And in this concept, I think it's worth noting that everything else we do when we pass through money with the county, we collect 9, maybe at the most 10%, but as a default, we collect 9% of the revenue. as an administrative cost for being able to process that. As a conservative, I don't like the idea of government becoming a for-profit organization. And right now we're becoming a for-profit organization on the back of people who can't afford it. That's two things that are terrible to me. So at the very least, I think we discount our percentage here, so that it at a minimum covers our cost of administering the program.
Ellen Boston and Kirshner.
So don't we generate revenue with some of our inmate workers?
Can I just say that Sheriff Elfo is on the call and may be able to answer some of those questions?
I didn't see him.
See him either. So anyway, I guess the inmates probably would prefer to work. I'm trying to sort out the difference here in my mind on why one revenues might be okay and another one might not be okay. I'm just thinking out loud.
So Councilmember Kirshner, I don't see Sheriff Elpo. I do see a call in that I don't recognize, but
Yeah, he texted me and asked me to let you know he's on the call. So it might be that one. Maybe if we just ask for him to chime
okay.
in, we can see.
Sheriff Elpo, can you unmute and give us a shout? Sheriff Elpo?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I came in late in the conversation. I was just made aware there was a discussion through a text message. So I'm just here to it's Wendy's managing the contract on this, but if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. I can say that we probably have one of the lowest rates in the state. I think all the county jails in Washington have similar setups with this company or other companies, or our current vendor who's no longer going to be in this business. They're going to be done by December 15th. So I don't think we're outside the norm for collecting fees.
Questions for the sheriff? Councilmember Donovan.
I'll repeat it. I think it's an improvement in that the rates are going down. I think the services are good. I think it's something that we need to provide, and that we have a private vendor who's going to do this. My issue is this and other things we will use to generate revenue. So we'll add on to that revenue for people who are incarcerated, awaiting trial, who can't make a phone call otherwise. Because as a county, we don't want to look at the fact that we've made decisions to incarcerate these people and we have other ways to pay for it. We're going to charge them for it. And I just find that more than challenging. I find that wrong. So I acknowledge that this is important revenue. We need those revenues, but we should be generating those revenues not on the backs of people who are in jail, but by actually having honest conversations about our general fund taxation.
Well, I mean, it's a policy decision on how you want to proceed with that if you no longer want the inmates to pay the cost. The only thing that I'm concerned about with this now is that the other company, I believe, is done on December 15th and will have no service at all. So I think the suggestion made by Mr. Schroeder that the contract proceed and then, give us some time to figure out how to rebate that or find some other way that pleases council to handle it.
Other questions for the sheriff? Well, thanks Councilmember Kirshner.
I wanted to just kind of clarify what I thought Wendy told us this morning, and that is that the calls that inmates make in regards to their cases, like to their attorneys or that sort of thing, they're not charged for those. but they're charged for the personal calls. And I think she said the rate was like $1.26 for 15 minutes.
It's 16 cents a minute.
16 cents a minute for 15 minutes, right? And so what do we do with the revenue that is generated from that system? Do we put it back into inmate activities, or do we improve experiences in the jail with that, or where does that money go?
It goes into the general fund, and then we pay a number of expenses out of that general fund that we come to you for the GED program, for the what we pay for the library, what we pay for domestic violence and sexual assault services to come up there and provide counseling to people. So there's revenue coming in, but it goes out to various programs that affect the welfare of the inmates. And I just want to reiterate, if there's an emergency or a family, or as you said, the attorney calls, there's no charge for those. But if there's someone that can't pay it and they have some urgent need, we make arrangements for them to use a phone for free. Not one of that system's phone, but we have other hardwired phones in the jail.
Councilmember Frazee?
So I think what I'm hearing is, so the old contract ends December 15th and we need to renew this one. Will we be without any service at all? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Councilmember Brown?
Sheriff Alford, could you just perhaps give us a little bit of a refresher on why one would not want inmates to have unrestricted, unmonitored access to a telephone?
Well, we have a huge problem with that. We need to record the calls. We have intimidation. We have violations of no contact orders. We've even had a murder for hire in the last 2 years that was consummated on a phone call. So we need the ability to record those and monitor those.
Councilmember Donovan?
I understand the time sensitivity of the contract here, but I think if you go back to the vendor and say, we don't want the commission, they would probably be instantly receptive to that. And then maybe, give us a low rate. But even if they don't give us a low rate, it's just that this is a systematic issue, and how we fund things to sort of avoid putting things in the general fund, whether it's building permits, charging the applicant, not having the general fund favor that, or charging people in jail because the general fund won't pay for that. So, but if it's a time sensitive thing on the contract, just this, we just experienced this with the Byron Street thing in the opposite direction, where we asked more of them. This would essentially be asking less of them. I don't think they would be upset to say, we're not going to be contributing your general fund off the backs of the people who are providing the service to.
So just so that I could understand, then you would like to see a lower rate for the inmate and no compensation to the county, or no commission to the county on that? If that's council's desires.
No, this is just me bringing this up, but ideally,
okay,
we would not be generating general fund dollars off of people who are in jail, who are unable to make personal phone calls because they're in jail awaiting trial. And then if the vendor would forego that commission and provide even a lower possible rate, that would be great. But it's the issue of, because it's not just this, all the fees and charges that will add up for people while they're awaiting trial, that will go into the general fund, or they go into specialized funds. We're doing that because we're not acknowledging the costs that we as a society or as a county are incurring by putting people there. We're putting them on the people who are in there. And I don't think this vendor would be opposed to giving up that commission that goes into our general fund. And again, I will totally admit, I don't have a replacement idea for this, except for having an honest conversation about our general fund and our inability to ever talk about raising taxes on that fund.
Yeah, and I'm not speaking for the overall budget, but I know that we're down 5 corrections deputies right now, and I'd be concerned if the county's depending on some revenue source coming in, that we're down even more, because we're in a very bad situation right now in terms of security, in terms of liability, and if we give up additional revenue, I don't know what that would mean in terms of positions, because there's very few things we have to cut up there other than people.
We could start charging inmates more. It's essentially what the logic is here.
Right, and these are not like the necessary phone calls are entitled to. These are over and above, just like a commissary item would be.
Other questions for Sheriff Alfo?
And Bill, I just want to say, I think it's a good service. It's an improvement over before. I think it's a service that we need to provide. It's just the getting additional revenue off of that, rather than talking about that coming from the general fund and how we fund
right.
general revenues. So
right.
I think,
and I know there's been a larger conversation about this nationally, and some jails, particularly in the Southeast, were charging sort of $2-3 a minute, and then the FCC got involved and set a rate structure, and that was challenged in court, and then it was partially withdrawn. But we're at the lowest. I think this is the current FCC rate. The lowest it is anywhere is the 16 cents a minute. I don't think anybody has it any lower. And as I say, this is the norm around, at least in Washington State. And just add that any essential calls, they're provided without cost.
Any other questions? Bill, thanks so much for taking time to join us tonight.
Okay, thank you, and have a good evening.
Yep.
You too.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilmember Frazee?
I guess my concern is I want to vote no, and just where we would go from here. With services provided or ideas for the general fund. Yeah, I'm really torn on this.
Other discussion? Mr. Ellenboss?
Yeah, I think as bad as I want to vote no, I think I'm going to have to support it because I don't want the inmates to not have the service. But I would welcome a different option like Councilmember Byrd's talking about.
Mr. Donovan?
The inmates would still have the service if the county forego the commission that generates revenues. But that said, I don't have an answer for Ms. Frazee or Mr. Ellenboss or anybody about what the alternative sources of revenues would be, except to increase the obligation on the general fund, which I've brought up in previous budget cycles.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Byrd,
No.
Todd Donovan,
No.
Ben Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Rudd Brown,
Yes.
So that passes 5-2 with Byrd and Donovan opposed. Okay, now we move to Public Works and Safe and Health. Carol?
Okay. First up, we have AB 2020-486. This was discussion of proposed ordinance amending Whatcom County Code 8.10, solid waste and residential recycling collection regarding solid waste collection in Point Roberts, Washington, and this was held in committee. And next up, we had a
Carol, there was
Yes.
one item, I believe before that, that was the snow and ice item. 498.
498.
498. Okay, so we have AB 2020-498. We had a presentation of the 2020 Public Works Winter Snow and Ice Policy and requests for a motion from council in support of the policy. We had a discussion and then motion approval to recommend approval by the council of the proposed 2020 Public Works Winter Snow and Ice Policy, and that passed in committee 3-0. So I move. Can we bring that forward now?
Okay, we have that motion. Discussion?
Barry, can I add?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
So general meeting, we have a lot more people typically that watch this. To everyone who is, please understand this year, we're going to go through a lot more challenges other than just COVID. We have people retiring, we have budget restrictions, we have equipment things that are coming up. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for us to possibly get to some of those roads that aren't as big of a priority. And it'd be nice, we just want you to know that in advance. If you could help us communicate that message to your friends and family and community, it would be beneficial so that they understand that too. But we're going to do our absolute best moving forward. We just might not do as great as we have in the past, but we appreciate your understanding.
Thanks, Tyler. Other discussion? Councilmember Donovan.
I just want to commend Public Works and Director Hutchins for featuring his staff and showing us the resources that they've developed to be able to communicate to folks about this snow and ice policy. That was really cool.
Ms. Frazee.
Yes, I want to commend also and Marie Duckworth. I think she's the one who put that together and forward, and it's a lot of great work.
Other discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Van Ellenboss,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Brad Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes, that passes unanimously.
Okay, next we had AB 2020-431, a resolution affirming racism as a public health crisis, and this was held in committee. And lastly, we had AB 2020-525, a resolution recognizing inequality and unconscious bias and its effect on the community health, and this item was withdrawn by the proposer. And that's it for Public Works and Health.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Frazee. Next up is introduction items. We have 16 items here to introduce.
Ben's got his hand up.
Yeah, Ben, go ahead. I was looking down at my papers.
I just wanted to kind of make a general observation here that this last item we discussed about the revenue off the backs of inmates, one of the things I heard the sheriff say is, this is how it's done. And to me, that speaks to systemically, this is how it's done. Now, is that racist, or is it unconsciously the way we've always done things? And so I guess along with our conversation earlier, is it racism, or is it some other unconscious bias that we have going that we just keep going along with the status quo? And so I think the last conversation we just had really illustrates that type of issue. Now, depending on what your jail population is, it may disproportionately negatively impact some people more than others. So those are the types of conversations I think we'll be having with the PHAB board in the next few days.
Okay, we are in the introduction portion of our agenda, and we do have one item, so item number 1, which is the ordinance amending Whatcom County Code 8.10 solid waste and residential recycling up in Point Roberts. That has been held in committee, so that's not part of this introduction. So we are looking at items 2 through 16 for introduction.
Maybe introduce those items.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to introduce. Discussion. Councilmember Kirschner? Councilmember Kirschner.
My goodness. Sorry, thought I was unmuted. The introduction item for looking at fees. I'm wondering if we introduce this, Dana, is there any discussion that we can have on it? I'm assuming this would go to a public hearing in the next 2 weeks. Is that right?
That's correct.
Well, I would like to move to remove that from introduced items so that we can have staff reports on why some of the fees are going up and some are not.
So you're talking about
like
number 6, right, Kathy? Number 6?
Yes. Right, number 6, item number 6.
You want to remove that from this evening or just from introduction and talk about it tonight?
Well, I don't really want to talk about it tonight because I don't think staff are prepared to do that. It doesn't look like we have the staff on call, but it looks like we're raising permit fees and building fees, and many we're keeping the same. I just kind of wanted to know the thought process behind those decisions. Is it
Mr.
something
Schroeder?
we could introduce and move into committee, or once we introduce it, it's pretty much the way it is, right?
This is Dana again. One thing that you could do with that is go ahead and put it in your meeting on the 12th to talk about it. So you'd introduce it tonight, talk about it on the 12th, and go ahead and have the hearing on the 24th.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I guess I don't have to make that motion for this introduction item. I'll make it later.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. What would you like to do with it, Kathy? Would you like to leave it in, or?
Well, if we can talk about it on the 12th during our budget committee meeting, then it's fine to leave it in, as long as if we decide that there are changes we want to make, we can still make them. That's sort of what I'm wanting to know from Dana. I think sometimes we introduce these things that are scheduled for a public hearing, and I'd like to have discussion and the opportunity to make changes if we decide prior to the public hearing.
So Dana, what you were suggesting is that we would go ahead and leave this as introduced in this tonight, and then we'd just put it as a work session item on the 12th. And then
Yes.
any revisions or amendments we wanted to do to that, they would be brought forward to the public hearing.
Yes, and that would be in a substitute version.
Okay, that sounds clean. Mr. Brown.
I had pointed out that one of the areas I think is incorrect. It didn't reflect a decision the council made about 2 years ago. So hopefully that will get reflected in the amended version. It's all right. Mr. Schroeder seems to be nodding his head. Yeah, okay. And I support Ms. Kirschner on the discussion on the 12th.
Okay, so Councilmember Kirschner.
Okay, and I would also like to move that item 13 be considered separately.
Certainly. So right now we are considering items 2 through 12 and 14 through 16 for introduction. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I agree on doing that, but did we need to have a vote to remove those things, or we just proceed like this?
We can proceed like this because we will vote on that separately. So
Gotcha.
we're not really removing it. We're just voting on it separately. Okay, any further discussion? Items 2 through 12, 14 through 16. Please call the roll.
Donovan,
Yes.
Van Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes,
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
that passes 6-1. Okay, now we will consider item 13 on its own. Do we have a motion to introduce?
I'll move to introduce.
I will second. Discussion?
Barry, can I?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Byrd.
I voted against this darn thing every single time that I've been on the council that has come up. I'm going to vote for it today only because the committee has been doing phenomenal work, and it's something that I've wanted, is both sides coming together and actually working it out because they are the experts for what they represent. So I'm going to vote for it today because I want to see them continue to do that work.
Councilmember Ellenboss.
I would just like to point out whether the moratorium passes or this ordinance passes or doesn't will have no bearing on whether the work can continue or not for the comprehensive plan amendments.
Other discussion? Ms. Kirschner?
I'll weigh in and just say that we are way past an emergency moratorium. And so I'll be voting no to stay consistent.
Any other discussion? Okay, please call the roll. Item 13.
Van Ellenboss,
No.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
No.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes,
Tyler Bird, Yes.
Todd Donovan?
Yes.
and that passes 5-2. So we're at committee reports for things we haven't dealt with. Let's see, is there anything from natural resources? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Donovan.
The fee schedule thing, did we pull two things and just approve one of them, or we just pull the item 13?
We only pulled item 13 separately, and we left the fee schedule in, and we're going to have a work session on the 12th.
Gotcha. And nothing from natural resources that we haven't covered.
Okay. What about finance? Anything else, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm going to bring back the concept of the pallet shelters. So we have till the 16th, which is next Monday. I do believe we're going to have extra funding. I know Deputy Executive Schroeder gave us a couple different answers in regards to whether or not we were going to have everything spent versus what we were estimating versus whether we had backup expenditures that he'd be asking us to approve on the 24th. I would much rather see us use these funds to purchase an asset that we could use today and ongoing into the future to solve problems that we would be able to do at a much cheaper expense and in a better way than using those funds to cover deficits within our budget and our general fund that we would have incurred anyway due to whatever reason, that spending or anything else. So I very much want to see us at least move forward with considering that, given that there is less than a week for us to make that decision, and ask that the administration look into this and see if we could basically purchase those 50 units, because it will save us a ton of money moving forward. And so real quick for concept, or just to illustrate the point, if we extend the contract as we have for the rest of this month for the Motel 6, and then give it an additional 3-month extension through February and an additional 3-month extension through the end of May, that's a total of $350,000 just for the cost of renting that facility and using it. It's not for the utilities. It's not for the expenses of any nonprofits helping us to facilitate that program or anything else. It's just for the use of that facility. That $350,000 could buy us almost 50 of these units that are tiny houses that we would keep in perpetuity. We could use for the exact same purpose. And when we were done, we would have them available for emergency services, just like you heard from John Gargett in his email. We'd have them available for homeless use if we needed, and we'd have them available for everything else. And yes, Todd, I like your dog. And if you want another, I'll send you mine.
Oh, she's driving me nuts.
I like Todd's dog too.
I have a cat that's chewing on my toes right now.
We've seen your cat before, haven't we?
Tyler was speaking. Let's keep.
Oh, sorry, Tyler. Or are you done?
No, I'm making a motion that we ask the executive and his team to look into purchasing these units by the 16th.
Do we have
I'll
a second?
second that.
Ellen Boss, I saw you first.
Yeah, I wanted to draw your attention to the email that we got from John Hutchings in regards to Tyler's current motion. And I guess I'm just going to say it because, well, that's what I do. I think Tyler arranged to have a pretty neat little demonstration of these pallet homes, and he was promptly shut down. I'm going to ask the question if another council member would have done the same thing when they've been shut down as well. And I ask it because, well, we've been having a whole bunch of discussions about unconscious bias and whatnot. And I guess I'm going to bring up the fact that there's a lot of good ideas that come up. And if we're going to dismiss them or treat them differently based off of who brings them up, then the only people that are going to pay in the long run is the community. So I've heard a lot of people asking for solutions like Tyler brought up, and I'm a little disappointed that they haven't been more well received. I'll just put it that way.
Councilmember Donovan?
Well, Ben, I think let's have a discussion about it before you get to that conclusion. And I didn't see John Hutchins' his email there, but
I think he meant John Gargett, didn't you?
Okay. I just
Yes, you're right. That's, I think, John Gargett.
But
John's.
So a couple things here, because like I said earlier, like if there's a way we could do this and potentially store them, because I don't know if we can implement it between now and the 16th. But so two things. So I've heard different things from the deputy executive about how much money is left, because we have obligations for stuff that we haven't got receipts yet coming in. So we may or may not have $350,000. So that's one question. Do we have $350,000? Does this qualify for CARES Act funding if we can't get it ramped up by the 16th? I mean, is there a way we can still qualify for that? So I'm even though this might have come from Ben, I'm trying to, I'm sorry, Ben, for Tyler. It doesn't matter who's coming. I'm trying to figure out a way to make this work, and we're on a really compressed time frame here. So that's a question for the executive's office. So that's another thing. Like, can we come in with a margin of how much CARES Act dollars do we still have? Does this qualify? And can we pull this off by the 16th? And So I guess it's an executive question, or a finance question, and these are things that like I wish, this conversation. I didn't think of this. I'm glad Mr. Bird did, but I wish this had started a week ago, so we can get those kind of answers. Like, do we have the money? Can it be used for this? And can we implement it in time so that we're not paying this back? Because I would love to have this resource, even if we don't yet know where we're going to locate it.
Councilmember Byrd, I have a question for you. Your motion is to just keep this ball rolling, not a full committal, correct?
Essentially, yeah.
Let's drop the word essentially and let's just go with yes.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, I mean, that's the way I heard you, that it was let's see what the administration can come back with on the 16th. If that's the case, I'm going to support it.
Yeah, yes, the councilor chair. The only essentially part is like I'd like to be more direct in saying that this is something that we'd like to see, and we would very much like them to go out and look at this and come back to us. But yes, it's to keep the ball rolling at the very least. Thank you.
Councilmember Ellenboss.
Well, from everything I hear, we're going to end up paying some of the bills on the Byron Street facility in the future if it continues as long as these contract extensions show. And quite frankly, I'd rather pay for something. I would rather risk having to pay for something out of our funds that's tangible that we get to keep than throwing money out the door on rent. I really support this idea.
Any other discussion?
Let's refine the motion to get a sense of what we're asking. Because I think,
could council staff please read back that motion?
If Dana could read it, or if Christy has it, I apologize. I don't have it.
Well, this is Christy. What I have is that Bird moved to request that the administration look into purchasing the pallet shelter units by November 16th.
That's what I have also.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce I support what Mr. Bird is trying to do. I just want to make sure that if we do purchase these, that we don't give people the impression that that also means we've found a place to put them and we've found the money to do the operating costs and including the security, because that's proven to be finding a place to put this stuff has been the most challenging aspect. And one of the things that we don't understand, at least I don't understand, maybe Mr. Bird can enlighten us, is why the city of Bellingham, because they're the ones who've got the real estate and would provide the security, have been unable or unwilling to designate additional areas. I'm not criticizing the city with that. I'm just saying there's a question there which we need to understand.
So, Mr. Brown, I have some appointments set up to talk to council members from the Bellingham City Council on this subject. So I'm going to see what I can find out. Councilmember Ellenboss.
I appreciate that you're doing that, Barry. That's helpful. And I'd like to say that, we approved some pretty big bundles of dollars here that didn't have it altogether planned, put in place. I seem to recall 4.5 million, 5 million that didn't have every I dotted and T crossed. And I think what's Councilmember Byrd proposing here, what was it, 50 pallet shelters, which would be like $300 and some $1,000. So I don't think this is incredibly out of line for the opportunity that's there for these to be paid for
Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, I guess let's follow up on, I think something Mr. Ellenboss had said, that if we do have to eat the costs, if it's not CARES dollars, it's $350. But he also mentioned, and this is, we just heard for the first time today, that the remaining balance might be used to cover some operating costs. And again, this gets to my thing about the general fund, for public safety, first responders, which is great. But again, that's the first we've heard of this. So I don't want to criticize this program or policy that Mr. Byrd is suggesting to say it's the first time we've heard of it, because it's also the first time we heard of what those other CARES dollars might be going for. So yeah, I would say support the motion, but also, encourage this, if we can get anything out of the city out of it in terms of funding as a contribution as well, or sites. And I honestly, I don't think, hopefully we could figure this out by the 16th, but if we can't get a physical place to put them and have staff resources for them in that short amount of time, we should be recognizing that we might then not qualify for the CARES dollars, which, I mean, I guess I would say I'm okay with that, but the other use of the remaining funds is something we just heard about today. So I'm not going to hold that against this proposal for just hearing about that today, as I maybe normally would. I hope that made sense. And it's, I think that's a message to the executive. Like, we have a priority. You've got a priority. We just heard about both of these priorities at this moment. So sort those things.
Councilmember Frazee.
Yes, and I would like to, I would, if it was covered, and make sure that's covered. I would agree that this is a great idea. And but just like with the water districts and the water associations, how and I appreciate Councilmember Byrd bringing these things forward. We don't want money left on the table, but with the water districts and the water associations, how we're going to have that system in place, hopefully, because Councilmember Byrd brought it forward, that if we do get the next, hopefully there's more money coming in, CARES money, that is ready, and then this would be ready too at the pallets and what we're going to do with them. And like Councilmember Brown said, it's the whole system after we have those, and how we, the security, everything like that goes along, the facilitation of where we put the tiny homes, or that's a big expense. So thinking that part through too. And I understand we want to, we could use these tiny homes for, like, if there's a flood or something like that. And I appreciate the ideas, but even if this doesn't go through now, I would like this on the next round of funds that we're going to keep hoping for.
Mr. Ellenboss.
Yeah, I think my thought process here is that I would prefer to spend the money on the pallet shelters, have them for future uses, than continue to spend money at the Byron Street facility, which 3 months of that would cover the cost of purchasing these 50 units, which, we've heard from numerous people would be useful in many situations, whether it's, cold weather shelters, whether it's folks that are displaced by flooding or whatever it is. And, I'm pretty sure the county owns enough land and empty parking lots here and there that we could find a place to store these things.
Executive Stdham.
I would like to answer Mr. Ellenboss' question. Yes, if some other council member brought this thing, it would get the same treatment. I think your assumption is wrong. That's not how we work. Second thing, the Byron Street facility use is not equivalent to tiny homes. Tiny homes has come up because Biden facility use when we started with was with FEMA for quarantine isolation facility. We cannot, I don't think that we can immediately put these tiny homes and get them approved as isolation quarantine facility. I'm not saying we can't, but just equivalent that replace one with the other is very simple assumption. There are some bridges in between to cross to make them equivalent. Because these, I am not opposing Mr. Bird's idea. Actually, as a matter of fact, on Monday meeting, Tuesday morning, it is Tuesday today, or last week. Anyways, I called Mr. Bird in the morning. I said, Tyler, your suggestion that we should actually go out and look at other motels, other places who could be available. That's what he suggested, that there are several people who are willing to do this. I said, I will go with you. If you want to do a three-way call, I will call with you. If you want me to make certain calls, you know of a person, I'll make those calls. Please give me names or whatever you have suggested. I will do that. I called him first thing in the morning, whatever time it was. But he did not mention to me that there is a tiny home demonstration truck is coming. We found out 5 minutes before that. So another thing is, I just want to make a couple of points. If we use the money for security personnel and everything from the CARES Act dollars, we don't have favorite projects. We just trying to do how securely we can retain these CARES Act dollars into our treasury. That's what our purpose is. If you're saying that buying tiny homes is the best way to use that money, maybe it is. Maybe we can do that. I don't know, but you can imagine that our purchasing policies, which have been put in place just for that very reason, that the administration should not be able to use that money by shortcutting the policies or the procedures. That's why those securities have been put in place. So same thing was with the when we talked about giving money to the water districts. I said very clearly, I like that, we can do that, but it is not possible to do it in that time. It is not an excuse. Why would we not use money if the federal government is giving us money for use for the best purpose for our public? Why would we not use it? Same thing goes for this also. So we are not saying, okay, let's look which council member is proposing this thing, so we should work with him or her or not. That's a very wrong assumption. And same thing is, if we have been planning that where we can use money. We started 4 months ago. This is the conversation I had with Tyler Schroeder and Brad. I said, look guys, when the crunch time is gonna come, we're gonna be scrambling to put this money into certain buckets. Get ready now. This is 3 months ago. I knew that it could be a situation we may left with $1 or $2 million. We should plan for that. This is not afterthought for us. And we've been saying, okay, every time we plan, we say, okay, we can do this. Okay, what is left over? So now this is left over. And that's why we thought the best thing, because we got a advisement from the Treasury and Department of Commerce that your security personnel, the police, the fire, the EMS, everything, they are eligible for CARES Act dollars. So we thought, okay, this is a good bucket that we can use that at the last moment to keep the money. This is not coming for any our favorite projects. It's coming to any money comes into the treasury, coming back to the council. We are also trying to do the same thing. And when I heard about tiny homes, I said, yes, that's great. We should do that. Same thing, that maybe we should use other monies we have. If we get these monies for EMS and our firefighters and other things, then we have covered certain expenses where we can spare some money in other ways from other grants and do that. Please don't assume that we are stalling or we are trying not to do stuff. We are actually working more harder to do things and keep the money and follow the rules and not get audited. All those things are on our mind every day. All my team, everybody, we have been planning for 3 months.
Councilmember Byrd and then Donovan. Unmute, Tyler.
Thanks, y'all. I wouldn't have assumed that the executive or was stalling or anyone on his team, but I'll tell you, it does feel a lot like what Ben has said, that if I bring something forward that's an idea that I'm told that it's not going to happen, and that it's because of who I am or the label that I have, and not because of the idea. And it's frustrating, to be honest, because I've worked really hard to listen to the community and to find solutions that will work across the board. This wasn't my idea. And when I brought it forward a couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned that it's not my idea. It came from Marcus D. I mean, he brought it up when it originally happened and suggested that pallet homes were an option and asked me to go down there and see them in person. And I wasn't able to go in person, but in watching the videos and researching the information and talking to their staff, I realized that even though Marcus and I are complete opposites in a lot of things, we wanted the same thing at the end of the day. We wanted to be able to really help people with the money that we had in a better way than what we were doing today. And that has nothing to do with the fact that what our staff is doing. Our staff does a phenomenal job. What it has to do with is that I believe that we, all of us, the 7, 8 of us here, were elected to set that vision and to establish those goals and to encourage our teams to do better, to be great in ways that they wouldn't by default. Not because they don't do a phenomenal job day in, day out, but because it's our job as leaders to really push the vision forward and to understand what the community wants and to encourage and ask for more. So it was Marcus's idea, and I've been helping him champion this, and I appreciate him bringing it forward. So, Paul, I didn't bring up the idea of Friday, and you and I didn't talk on Tuesday. We spoke on Friday morning, right?
Friday, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And that happened. I talked to the company Thursday afternoon after the council meeting, and they volunteered to come up here and to do a demo of their product and show us how to set it up and allow us to keep it for as long as we wanted, wherever we wanted, and to allow people to come and check it out with hands-on and to see what it was, so that we didn't have to drive to Everett and to actually send people down there where it would be an hour down, an hour to check out the product, and an hour back, but where we could do it as we walk between offices and see what it was. It wasn't a matter of like, I wasn't elected to take products like this and ideas like this and take it to my personal office and set it up out of the way where people could see it. I was elected to represent the people. And so when they made that offer, to me, that's no different than me bringing my laptop into the office or bringing an office chair in. Is it really? I mean, you're talking about 8 feet by 8 feet. I mean, it's nothing. but I didn't bring it up today. And I haven't brought it up at all. And you haven't seen anything about it, have you? Because I understand that you guys were frustrated with it. And maybe it's not the process that you wanted, even though that I don't believe that that's the process that should have taken place. I believe that we should be doing this. And yet it hasn't happened. And I have asked for it before this. And I've encouraged it for the last several years. It's a good solution. All I'm asking for today is that you guys actually put consideration into making it happen. And then absolutely, I'm going to leave you with is this. You know, if we look back at history, the United States government said, hey, we're going to have a race to the moon. Our country can get there first and we can do the best. And there was a lot of people that said, no, it's not possible. You can't land on the moon. You can't make that happen, and didn't believe in it and refused to take those steps. And there was a handful of people that said, hey, it's a great idea that we're willing to try. Let's find the solution to make it happen. All I'm asking you guys for is the same thing I asked you for last week with the Motel 6 and going from 15 units to 60. Please don't throw up roadblocks. Just give it a good shot and let's try to make it happen. If we can't make it happen, I understand and I'll accept that. But let's try as a team. That's it. And if we do that, I appreciate it and I respect everyone for that and I thank you for it.
Let me, Mr. Alan Bass, if I can.
I think I was.
Want to say one word. Mr. Bird, I would like you to keep this, take this to your heart. Please do your research. You bring very half-baked ideas and make up as things as you go. It becomes very difficult for us to support or not support, because I'm always concerned about that if I say no, how are you gonna take it? But you come up with ideas which have not been researched, which have not been thought through, and you don't wanna share. You could have shared on Thursday with Tyler or me or anybody. Hey guys, I'm going to call this company, going to bring it. Do you have a place for it to put it? How should we demonstrate? How should we do it? 5 minutes before you come and say something. And I had the same independent answer without talking to Tyler Schroeder, which Schroeder answered you, because that's a very natural answer. So please do your research, vet those ideas, then bring it and push them. You push them first and do the research later. And there are many things each one of us is not aware of. It's better to share so that other people can let you know, how about this, how about that. Same thing happened with water districts and water association. Your word was, I'm not even aware of water associations. Water associations are bigger than districts. But since you were not aware, you kept pushing, kept pushing, kept pushing. You got to look at yourself as well. If you feel that you are being revoked, there is a reason for that. And you should search for that reason as well.
Councilmember Donovan.
Thank you. I'll try to make this a little bit less personal. And I understand Mr. Sidhu's frustration and Mr. Bird's frustration, thinking about it's because who was proposing this. But I appreciate Mr. Sidhu's frustration about these things coming to us. I wouldn't call them half-baked, but I think we're kind of turning the process upside down, where we need to work, we as council people need to work with the executive and the people in finance and to vet these things and then come to council, and not come to council I don't say on the fly, but thinking about great ideas here. The race to the moon thing, I mean, that sounds great, but the race to the moon didn't happen because somebody just went to Congress while the appropriations bill was about to be passed and said, I think we should go to the moon. There was some work done before that. So as much as Tyler says, our job is giving people voice and pushing vision and stuff. Yeah, I agree. But our job is actually, we got to do some work ahead of time before we come to these public meetings and put the council on a spot to say, and the thing is, I'm trying to support Tyler's idea here, but we can't just say, let's vote on this right now. I would like to send a signal to the executive that says council has this idea that's a priority, and if there's ways we can make it work between now and the 16th, where there's $350,000 out of what's remaining, we can. And if not, we're, as a council, we're willing to accept the risk that we might have to pay for that out of other funds. So I think that's where we're trying to go here, and not talk about some of these other things, but so I'm trying to focus here. It's like, is that what we're trying to do? So do we want to send a signal to the executive that if we can spend $350,000 to get this hardware and park it somewhere out of CARES money, we're going to do that. If CARES money aren't going to be paying for that, we're comfortable as a council to find other funds to do that, or we wait to do that. So I don't know if we have a motion. I'm just trying to get a sense of where we're going here.
We do have a motion.
And the motion is
Just about what you said, Todd. It's not,
right.
It's to.
We're back on track of the motion. Great.
Yeah. The motion was exactly what you said. So Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Bird, when you say that your ideas are being, it's been a while, so I don't have the exact words, but if you say that your ideas are being rejected because of who you are, what your political persuasion is, I don't think that's a constructive statement for your own ability to govern. Because I have told you point blank, I support a lot of your ideas. I struggle with the process that you have when you ask the staff, or you ask the county government to effectively sort of suddenly shift directions 90 degrees, because the staff that need to execute on that have already been assigned other duties, and those duties would have to be put on hold in order to respond to you. And the county budget, in cases, it requires a budget appropriation. So I encourage you to look at the fact that you're running a small organization in your private life, and I remember what that's like. And it's very easy to be nimble when you're running a small organization. When you run an organization that has several hundred people, like I did, or an organization, the county, which is, if I remember correctly, is about 800 people, you can't just shift on a dime, because there's so many moving parts that interrelate with each other. And one of the, I'll yield in a minute, Todd. And one of the things that was a real surprise to me when I came into government is I said, well, I mean, how hard can it be? County government, it's only twice the revenue and twice the number of people of my organization. And then I realized it's 50 times more complex. So it's not just about the size. So I will continue to support good ideas that are backed by a plan to execute that makes sense.
Mr. Ellenboss?
Before I go on,
You're totally in the toilet now.
Say, Todd, something you want to say really quick before I go.
Well, I was just going to say, as a point of order, I was trying to make this not about the proponent of the issue and about the issue.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you now.
So, I guess I hear you saying you didn't ask, and I guess my question is, who does this council member work for? I mean, does he have to ask your bureaucrat whether you do that, or he doesn't work for the executive?
I'm sorry, I didn't get any of that.
Was that hurt?
Mr. Ellenboss, I think I heard you say, who is Mr. Bird working for? Was that it? Okay, I couldn't understand it.
We'll address it again in the future, because as executive said, simple. Nobody's here, so I'll just shut up.
I did hear that part.
I heard shut up.
We got to work on getting Benson.
That's all I could hear.
on the
We're going
internet.
to give you some internet. Any other discussion? Councilmember Byrd.
Thanks. I think what Ben was saying was, who do I work for? And what's the harm if I take that structure that fits in a parking stall and put it in a parking spot that I'm allowed to use every single day of the week, every day of the month, because it would fit. And in the fact that I was told no, that I can't do even that I can't put it in a parking spot that I could use whenever I want. That's a different question, but Ben can deal with that. Right. Todd. Yeah. I appreciate that you're trying to direct us back. And I appreciate the perspective that you're bringing to this. And I want to say thank you for that, because it should be about the issue and not about me. I think that's where we should end up being. And that's part of my frustration with this in general. I wouldn't have brought it up except for the fact that Ben had mentioned it earlier. So thank you for that. At the end of the day, what I want you to take away from this is the fact that it's a good solution. If we move forward with asking the administration to do this, or at least look into it, we could potentially save a ton of money and help people for a very long time. If we continue doing what we're doing today, we're going to spend way more money, and we're going to help people for a very short period of time. So all I ask of you, forget who I am, forget the politics, forget everything else, consider that. The best decision is what? What's the best use of money, and what will help people the most moving forward? And then decide from there. That's it. Forget everything else. And let's go from there. And let's make it happen. Whatever that decision is for you, whatever that equates for you, as a group, as a team, as a council, let's make it happen for our community. Let's work together and make it happen. Thank you.
Councilmember Ellenboss, you going to try again?
Yeah, my phone battery is slim to nil, but can you hear me now?
That's better. Yeah.
That is
Okay.
better.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what I was saying. I was asking the rhetorical question of who does Councilmember Byrd work for? And I don't think the answer is he works for the executive. So who does he have to ask permission to? A bureaucrat? And what does it hurt for him to set up this 8x8 shelter in a parking spot that nobody else is using, other than someone's ego maybe? And so, quite frankly, I think it would have been very helpful to have that thing there to look at for all of us to see. And so I guess I'm just, the executive made the statement that, what was it? A simple conclusion. I've got a picture of a tractor behind me, and quite frankly, it's one of the most beautiful things I can imagine. So yeah, call me simple.
But John Deere, right?
Well, this one's a New Holland, the other one's a John Deere, but they're both beautiful in their own right. So
That's
call me
beautiful.
Call me simple. Yeah, that is beautiful. I'll agree with you there. Call me simple if you will, but sometimes simple conclusions are true. And you can say it doesn't happen, but I'm speaking. This is in the how many months? 10 months or whatever I've been on council. My experience has been just what I'm speaking about. And it's to the point where sometimes people call me and I say, yeah, I'd love to help you with this, but if I bring this situation up, it's not going to get any resolution. So why don't you get someone else to bring it up, and then I'll support it. And quite frankly, that's been very, very disappointing for me because I ran for a nonpartisan position and I have found that it is anything but that. And the only people that, the people that pay the price for that is the citizens that elected us. So I would challenge us all to do the best that we can to do what's right instead of the ingrained partisan politics that we've got going on here. So I'll get off my soapbox for now. I would have loved to have seen that pallet shelter firsthand. I appreciate the work that Tyler put into it. And I think that I would hope that the community can appreciate the fact that he's trying to listen.
Councilmember Frazee?
Okay, back to pallet shelters. But before that, this whole discussion of I'm not ingrained partisan and not being able to bring things forward. I'll always look at the issue and not the person bringing it forward. So I feel, yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the pallets. Like I said before, I would love to buy them. I would love to bring that forward. It's the whole, I want to see a plan, like how we're going to facilitate, who's going to be taking care of the people in those homes. How are we going, where are they going to be? It's easy just to say, let's just buy them. But if we just buy them, I don't think the CARES Act is going to, if they're not filled with people who are experiencing homelessness, I don't think the CARES Act can cover that. So there's a whole different process, a whole different plan. I think that's what everyone's asking for is, yeah, sure, we all want to do this. We don't want anyone homeless. It's cold out right now. And I feel like we're all passionate about that. And it's not that we don't want to buy those homes. We all do, I think. It's just that it's the whole process and the people that have to come together and make a plan or how we're going to facilitate that, and security, everything that goes along with that. Where are they going to be? That's where I believe we're all coming from a good place. We all want to give homes to the homeless, and we all have our hearts in that. And it's the whole process and the money that comes after that and how we're going to do that in such a short time. So it has nothing to do with the person bringing it forward, partisan. We all have the same thing we want to do. It's just we need a complete plan to say yes.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Donovan?
I was going to say, after all of this, it's a fairly simple motion to ask the executive to try to see how we can make this work.
To try, exactly.
That's as I understand it. So
yeah, that's why I'm supporting it. I'd love to get up to the plate and at least take one big swing at this.
yeah, it's okay. There we go.
Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that once we do have a clear idea as to what is the holdup in locating these, I will work alongside you, Mr. Buchanan, and you, Mr. Bird, and any other council member who wants to try and find a placement for this.
Okay, we ready to vote? Any last thoughts? Okay, please call the roll.
Carl Frazee,
Yes.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Brad Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Donovan,
Yes.
Ben Ellenboss,
Drinks. Yes.
And that was a whole lot of talk for 7-0. But well done, council. Well done.
So this is Dana. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So does this mean that the council is going to schedule a special meeting for the 16th, or?
That was not in the motion.
Yeah, That's a good question, Dana. So yes, I guess we would have to.
Somebody want to make that motion?
Do we already have a work session schedule on the 16th?
You have, Monday is the 16th. You have a meeting on the 17th. You have two meetings on the 17th. Cherry Point and the surface water work session in the morning.
So moved, Dana. Or Chair. I move for a special meeting on the 16th to review.
Can I throw out a time of 2 o'clock?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Question. So if we've got the water work session on the 17th. We've got the Cherry Point work session at 1, and I guess the work session probably starts at 10:30.
Yes.
This is just the executive coming back to us with a response to this. Can we fit that in to the Tuesday meeting? I don't know how much time we actually need for.
I don't know if that's too late. People keep throwing out the 16th as a deadline date, which I'm not sure how hard and fast that is.
Oh, for the spending for the so I guess that's a question to the executive then. And even if we did it on the 16th, does that work for getting the funds, qualifying for the funds? These are the things that we wanted to have sorted out before tonight.
Councilmember Kirschner.
I'm just wondering if we need to meet, if the executive team finds that this is a viable option and can take action, can't we approve it after the fact? Do we need to? And we've done it before.
Must be a scary question. Nobody wants to touch it.
I don't know. I would like Karen to maybe weigh in on that. Karen Frakes. Maybe.
Caught her off guard here.
Councilmember Frazee.
Now, this would really be quick, but can we have some ideas by the 12th on our budget meeting?
I would.
Tomorrow's a holiday, so I think that's not going to work.
So Karen must not be available, so I don't know. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, I kind of checked out already. What did you want me to weigh in on?
I was just wondering if the executive team decides that they've got budget authority or budget left and finds that these pallet homes are a viable situation that we should be investing in. Does the council need to meet and give them authorization to move forward, or can we give them authorization after the fact?
Or does the emergency ordinance give them the ability to do that?
Oh boy. I can't give you an off-the-cuff answer on that. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not opposed to meeting on Monday, so Monday is fine.
What did you say, Dana, 2 o'clock?
Yes, that was my suggestion.
So Councilmember Byrd, you had a motion. Do you want to include that time and everything in that motion?
That time, Barry, which time is that?
2 o'clock for the council meeting on Monday, the 16th.
I'm open. Yeah, I will include that if it's acceptable.
Okay, so that's the motion, to meet on Monday, the 16th at 2 p.m. to consider this once we get some information back from the executive.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? Councilmember Donovan.
I'll be voting against this, and I guess this sort of highlights my concern about, and while supporting the idea, not having these things sorted out ahead of time and bringing it to council and then having to schedule additional council meetings, which we've already done on all those issues that, well, wasn't very fruitful. So I will vote against the motion. But this is just the motion for the meeting. Have we voted on the motion? Okay, right.
Correct. Yes, this is just the meeting. So Monday the 16th at 2 p.m. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Kathy Kirschner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yeah.
Ben Ellenbass,
Yes.
Carol Frazee,
Yes.
That passes 6-1 with Councilmember Donovan opposed. Okay. Let's see, where were we? We were still in finance. Did you have anything else, Mr. Bird?
No, that would be it. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Okay, next was criminal justice and public safety. We didn't have too much of a meeting. The public defender's office, there was a communication mix-up on who was supposed to be where, when, and we kind of missed each other. So we're going to reschedule that presentation from them. That was it for that meeting. We then had a committee of the whole where what did we do? This seems like 24 hours ago. We talked about COVID. We had our COVID-19 discussion. And what else did we do? What was the second thing we did?
The C Pacer,
The what?
the C Pacer program.
Oh, C-Pacer. Yeah, we took a look at that ordinance, and I want to keep that ball rolling as well. So very fruitful discussion on that. And that was it for that committee. I think next up was Carol. Did you have anything else in your committee that you haven't reported on?
Yes, we had a presentation from Puget Sound Energy on their storm response, and they talked about the importance because we're all online now. And also, if you do have an outage in your neighborhood, make sure you call because that's the only way they know, and then they get on it. We also have, let's see, with my paper here, an update on the Lummi Island Ferry, and they're going to look into different funding options since our ferry is so young that only 2 members of the council, I believe, were babies when it was born also, and the rest of us weren't alive. So we do need to start looking at funding.
Wait a minute. What's the insinuation going on here?
It's older than me.
And me too.
I'm old.
So just make your guesses now. So we do need to start looking at different funding options. And that's what we allowed them to do. They're also Mr. Hedgedis, someday I'll get his name right. I don't know why I can't pronounce that, but he gave a wonderful report on an update and review of the Point Roberts solid waste management and all what is going on there. And if you are interested in that, I advise you to, go back and look at the Public Works and Health Committee video and get all the facts. So thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Anything else for the good of the order for tonight? Okay, folks, we'll see you in just a couple days on the 12th. Good night. We're adjourned.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, everyone.
The recording has stopped.